esophagus, again, its job is to transfer food down into the stomach, right? So we have esophagus going down into the stomach. But there's something tricky about the esophagus in that it's the muscle layers, or the muscle. It starts out, I mean, swallowing is a voluntary process, right? But then by the time it gets to your stomach, it's involuntary. So a general rule is the first third of the esophagus is skeletal muscle. The middle third is a mix of skeletal and smooth muscle, and the last third, right before the stomach, is entirely smooth muscle. So there's a transition from skeletal muscle into smooth muscle of esophagus, so it's kind of tricky like that. And then that sphincter right here, this is called the cardiac sphincter, right before the stomach. It's called the cardiac sphincter because it's near the heart. The heart is not involved whatsoever, it's just near the heart, so this is called the cardiac sphincter. And then at the other end is the pyloric sphincter, but we'll go over that. So, this is kind of cool. So this model right here, all by itself, doesn't seem very helpful, but it kind of brings those three systems together that we've been studying. So here we've got trachea, right? You got the C rings on it. The lighting is a bit weird. That's trachea. And then this is esophagus. So the esophagus is much more muscular, and you look at the lumen, really large, open lumen. That's trachea. This is esophagus. And then this is an octopus tentacle. Now, what is this? Aorta, right? To me, this looks like a piece of sushi. The rice and the tuna on there. Well, the sushi model. But that shows you the three systems all in one. Kind of cool. So that's esophagus, and it leads into stomach. You have different regions of the stomach. So remember, we have the cardiac region. So we have the cardiac sphincter. So we have the cardiac region. You have that bump up here, that's called the fundus. Then you have the body, which is the majority of it right through here. Then you have the pyloric region right through here. So cardiac region, fundus, body, pyloric region, and then pyloric sphincter. So the two sphincters around the stomach are the cardiac sphincter up here, seals the top, and the pyloric sphincter at the bottom, seals the bottom. Cut away, look at the ridges in here. Those are called rugae. Rugae are just the bumps and the folds. Increased surface area, allow for more absorption. And look at the model by itself. So here's the stomach all by itself again. And again, we see those regions, the cardiac region, right through here, right up here, cardiac region, beginning, fundus, bump, body, and the pyloric region. On this model, we can also see the muscle layers. So the GI tract generally has two muscle layers, and it's entirely smooth muscle once we're down at the lower third of the esophagus. So it's smooth muscle, so we've got an inner circular muscle layer, inner circular, outer longitudinal. So you can think of the inner circular kind of pinches, whereas the outer longitudinal pulls. So it's that pinch, pull, those layers allow for, it's called peristalsis. So you get that peristalsis, like slow, rhythmic movement through the GI tract, because your food needs to be absorbed, the nutrients need to be absorbed, so it takes its time, it can take minutes, hours. But if you want to Taco Bell, seconds. Sorry. generally a slow rhythmic movement. But the stomach is a bit odd. So the stomach's got inner circular, outer longitudinal, but it's got another layer. So it's got a third layer. So it's got an inner. So with the stomach, there's actually 3 muscle layers because there's not just chemical breakdown of food. There's also mechanical breakdown. So with the stomach, you have the innermost oblique. So add that to everything. So with the stomach, you got innermost oblique, then you got inner circular or middle circular, and then outer longitudinal. So there's actually 3 layers to the stomach. And we can see here, everything's peeled, cut away, so we see a diagonal muscle fiber. So that's innermost oblique. Then we've got the middle longitudinal. And I think this is mislabeled in your study guide. So correct it in your study guide, it's messed up. So we've got innermost oblique, middle circular, and then outer longitudinal. But outer longitudinal in this case is just restricted to the curvatures. So you have a strap of outer longitudinal here on this curvature, the lesser curvature, and then you also have a strap of outer longitudinal muscle on the outer curvature. So outer curvature and inner curvature, that's the only place where you see these outer longitudinal, the third layer. So you won't see it here. Here we're only seeing the middle circular, the outer longitudinal circle. See other things on the stomach. We went over rugae and the pyloric. So this is the pyloric sphincter, or pyloric region. This is pyloric sphincter, which then leads into small intestine. The stomach absorbs mostly acidic compounds. So it's a very acidic environment due to hydrochloric acid. So what we have here, this is kind of cool. We have a gastric pit, and we'll zoom in on it, even though this is not drawn to scale. And let's put it where it's oriented light, so we see it up and down. So here at the top of the gastric pit, we have these specialized cells. These are called neck cells, and they secrete mucus lining to protect, coat the rugae, the folds of the stomach, so you don't digest yourself. It's kind of a bummer. Actually, no, I flipped that around. Sorry. There we go. These are the neck cells. Sorry. Here's the neck cells up here at the top. This is weird. So we've got the neck cells here secreting mucus. Here at the base, though, we have the gastric pits. In the gastric pits, this is where we have the chief cells and the parietal cells. The parietal cells secrete hydrochloric acid. That drops the pH down in the stomach. The stomach pH is around 2 or 3, so it's rather acidic. The chief cells secrete pepsinogen. Pepsinogen, though, is inactive. It's an inactive enzyme. It needs to be activated. It needs to become pepsin. So the way to become the compound that activates it is hydrochloric acid. So hydrochloric acid converts pepsinogen into pepsin, and now it's active and can start breaking down proteins. It can reduce complex proteins into simple proteins. They aren't yet fully digested, but there's now simple amino acids. Yes?
What did you say secreted? The gastric acid?
The what?
The gastric acid, which
Hydrochloric acid.
Oh yeah, and the pit. What's the name of the other cell?
Chief cells and parietal cells. Yeah, parietal cells secretes the hydrochloric acid. And then also there's gastrin in there. G cells, which secrete gastrin, which is a hormone which pretty much triggers this whole process. So it's kind of the hormone that's in control. It's a bit complicated, but there's, yeah. Just remember G cells, which are, but they're endocrine, they're endocrine cells, so they secrete a hormone into the bloodstream. The others, chief cells and parietal cells, are exocrine in that they secrete compounds into the, into the GI, into the exterior sense, and not into the bloodstream. is a quick overview of the gastric pits. We have some histology to show you that, but this is just so you can see the big picture.